Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Mending Minds. My name is Nick Tennant. I am a health educator in the Jacksonville Wellness Office, and I hope you're having a good week so far. We're almost to the end of the week, but we are to the end of our program. So this will be our final class in the Mending Minds program. So I hope that you've enjoyed it so far. I hope that you're getting some knowledge and some tools and some strategies that you can use to help enrich your life, make it a little bit more of a better experience, and really to tackle some of that constant stress that we face in life and how to deal with that. So the idea of today's class is really to take all the tools that you've learned thus far. So whether it be the mindfulness, whether it be, the relationship building and understanding your relationships, or the gratitude, or, the food and mental health, all the different things that we learn throughout this course, and choose at least one of those strategies to create a SMART goal for yourself. Because ultimately, while you often hear that knowledge is power, really it's what we do with that knowledge that is the power that we have. So, like I said, with mindfulness, with mending minds, with all our strategies that we learn, they are something that we have control over, and that's something that is powerful to us. You don't have to pay a subscription. You don't have to buy anything to do this. This is something that you have the power to do. So we'll give you that knowledge. We'll give you that material, but it's really up to you to make that change in your life. So that's what we're going to work on, is try to set some of these goals that you can accomplish on yourself, on your own. So looking at today, our class objectives, we're going to look at that resiliency. You heard me touch on resiliency in that first class when we went over it in a broad sense, but I'll go into deeper detail of what resiliency is, what a resilient person looks like, and why it's important. So we'll look at all the strategies, as we said, that we've learned throughout this course, and really look to develop a SMART goal to help build that resilience. So what we're trying to do, become more resilient individuals, and look at some things that we can do to create some behavior changes. And then we'll also discuss some of the resources that are available to you that you can utilize as well. So as a reminder from the first class, when we went over what is resiliency and what it is and the definition, the American Psychological Association defines resiliency as the process of adapting well in the face of adversity, trauma, tragedy, threats, or significant sources of stress. And if you remember what I said in the first class, the thing with resiliency, the key thing to remember is that people that are resilient. So when you hear about resilient people and successful people, they also face stress. They also face these challenges, these trauma, these stressors in their life that you could see as a roadblock, but instead of them seeing it as a roadblock, they turn it into something positive. What about this challenge can I take home and appreciate and take it as a lesson learned? So something I can use to really make it as a stepping stone to our success. So while we think that maybe resilient people may not always, or successful people, when they reach their goals, they may not have to face the same stress, the amount of stress, they still face stress. They still face those threats in their goals. But what they do is they take the positives from them and don't let that stop them. And I'm going to share with you an example of one resilient person, and that an example of a resilient person in his life. And some of you may know him. His name is James Blake, and this is his story. So he was an American tennis player that began his career in the early 2000s, straight out of Harvard University. Now, there was a lot of buzz going on around him about being the next American great to play the game of tennis. Right. So he was smart, he was fast, determined, and his fellow tour players, so the members he played with on tour, called him one of the hardest workers on the tour. And it all seemed to be trending in the right direction for James Blake until about 2003. And that's when his father, who he considered his lifelong best friend, was diagnosed with stomach cancer. Now, James didn't know at first because his father didn't want to worry him and mess up his tournament. He was just beginning, so he didn't want to, ruin, this important time of his life, and mess up this tournament that he was in. But when he eventually did find out, when his dad did tell him, he was only given 1 to 2 years to live. Well, James's father was adamant that he kept going on tour. These are your goals. This is what you're going to do. This is what you want to do with your life. Do not stop because of me. And so James reluctantly continued on tour. So in May 2004, he was practicing for a tournament. It was a rainy day in Rome, Italy. And James Blake chased down a ball at the net and slipped. And he went headfirst into the metal stanchion that holds up the net. Now, he laid on the ground for close to 30 minutes until the ambulance got there to take him to the hospital. It was practice. It was only practice. It wasn't an actual match, but he was still taking it full speed, something he always does. So he was diagnosed with a broken neck, and he was told that he was also had scoliosis. Now, he knew about a curvature in his spine at the early age of 13, but he opted, instead of surgery, which would have put a metal rod along his spine, which he thought would have ended his tennis career. He opted for bracing his back for 18 hours each day for the next 4 years. So from 13 to 17, he braced his back for 18 hours each day. But while he was recovering in the hospital for this broken neck, he really fought hard. Remember, he was in a different country. He was in Italy while his family was back in the United States. So he fought hard to leave the hospital early so he could recover at home in the United States with his family. Now, his father's condition was worsening. He was slipping in and out of consciousness, but eventually James was able to go back to be with him. And when he was spending this time with him, his dad told him, you are recovering, you're going through this physical therapy. I want you to play in this comeback tournament. I don't want you to stick around at home and just be around me. I want you are working for this goal. So reluctantly, on July 2nd of that year, he left to go play in his first tournament back. So this was his comeback tournament. The next day, on July 3rd, his father passed away from cancer. He won his match that day, but he ended up, obviously, after he heard the news, he returned home to be with his mother and his family. So after his father's funeral, James felt guilty about going back to play on the road, going on the road, leaving his mother at home. He just left home, and the day after he left and played in a tournament, his father passed away. So he had all this stress and all this, angst about leaving his mother at home. He eventually did decide to return to practice, but something just didn't feel right with his body. His ear and his head started to hurt, and he went to the doctor for what he thought was an ear infection. But eventually the pain worsened over the next few days. And he woke up in the middle of the night with a rash covering the entire left side of his head and his face. He couldn't move his mouth or the left side of his face, and he was unable to swallow. His left eye wouldn't blink. And eventually he was diagnosed with shingles, and which left one side of his face paralyzed, and his vision was blurred. Well, if you're a tennis player, that's a big thing. Having your vision blurred, your face paralyzed, things like that. The stress in his life became so much that it was taking a toll on his body. But he still fought to go back. He still fought. He said, I'm going to work on myself, work on these stress in my life. And he still fought to get back on tour. And he turned that adversity into triumph. In 2005, he won the ATP Comeback Player of the Year award. And then he started numerous charities and charitable events, including funding cancer research and medical research, including a foundation named in the honor of his father. So 3 years later, in 2008, he won the Arthur Ashe Humanitarian of the Year award, which is given to the tennis player that shows those charitable causes on and off the court. And when they asked James about this, about, losing your father and breaking your neck and going through the shingles and having one side of your face paralyzed and your vision not ever going to return to 100%, this is what he said. He said, the whole thing made me appreciate everything more. I get up in the morning and I look out and can smile and see it as a nice day. I don't take that for granted anymore. I get less angry after a loss, and I appreciate my good fortune more. So all this trouble, all these things that forced him to really shorten his career and maybe not make it as successful as he thought he would, and all this tragedy that he had, he took the good out of that. He said, I notice all the good things that I have in my life. Just waking up in the morning and looking out and seeing that it's a nice day, I can appreciate that more now. When he asked about breaking his neck, he went on to say, the luckiest thing to happen to me was breaking my neck. And if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't be upset at all about it. Now, I don't know about you all, but I can tell you, if I broke my neck, I probably wouldn't say the luckiest thing that ever happened to me was breaking my neck. But what he took was that stressful and that tragic situation, and he saw it as, I got to spend more quality time with my father. I got to appreciate the good things in life. I got to see from a different lens that I didn't see prior to that. So he took all these things that could have just stopped someone in their tracks and instead spun it into something positive. Right. And there's a great book, if you're ever interested in reading his story, called Breaking Back. That he is basically an autobiography of his life. So it's a great book about a resilient person. So talking about all of that, why is building that resilience important? Well, it's turning those roadblocks into success, just like James Blake did. Right. We live in a world where we're constantly multitasking. So remember in the beginning of the program when I had you recall your morning, and when we're not fully engaged in those moments of our lives, even those little trivial moments we may not think mean much, we miss out on those good experiences. We miss out on appreciating those experiences, and instead we become overwhelmed and exhausted. So one reason building that resiliency is important is turning those roadblocks into success. Failure is inevitable. We're all going to fail at some point in our lives, right? Problems are inevitable. Stress is inevitable. But giving up is a choice that we make. So Bruce Lee once said that defeat is a state of mind. No one is ever defeated until defeat has been accepted as reality. So meaning we have the choice to decide what our problems do to us. As we build our resiliency, we find ways to turn those challenges into building blocks for that success. We don't get defeated unless we tell ourselves that we're defeated. Remember, resilient people also face these challenges, but they're able to turn these challenges into something positive. Also, take control of your emotions and self-talk. You'll hear me go into deeper detail later in this presentation, but remember that our thoughts and our actions and our emotions are within our control. Just as I said, gratitude is a choice that we make. We can't control the external factors. We can't control some things that happen outside of our control, but we can choose and control how we react to those situations and what we do next. So see more positives, less negatives. Resilient people are able to recognize the good in their lives rather than just focusing on those negatives. So if you've been keeping up with your gratitude jar or your journal, or you're writing your letters of gratitude, you'll know that there are a lot of good things in your life that can be labeled as good, as positive things, even things that we may have been taking for granted. If you've done the gratitude journal entry where I asked you to write about 5 people in your life that you see that are hard to get along with, and write down at least one quality that you admire in them. So turning negative connotations or negative interactions into more positive can have long-term effects. And also, resilient, as you build that resilience, you exhibit flexibility and change, no longer that rigid thinking, which remember is a source of that internal stress that we have. We're able to adopt to change more smoothly. So we're not being stressed out when things don't go the way we thought they were or should have, or the way we had them planned. Instead, we adapt and move with the scenario. No longer are we thinking it's my way or the highway, or thinking that my way is the right way and that's the only way. We're able to understand different perspectives a little bit more. And Lifehack had this great graph or diagram here of how you build that resiliency and what happens when you do. So most of us live in this comfort zone, right? It's safe, comfortable, it's familiar. This is what we are used to. But where something happens outside of that comfort zone and we enter what is the fear zone, and this is where a lot of us get stuck, right? We can't get past this fear zone. We'll find excuses for why things are going the way they are. We're intimidated. We don't like to hear outside ideas. We don't like to try to push ourselves. We feel that lack of self-worth or confidence, and we're down on ourselves, and we don't think that we deserve this, or we don't deserve to be happy. But if we push past that fear zone, as we build our resilience, if we push past that fear zone, we get into what is the learning zone. That's when we're able to take those challenges, those problems that we have, and find solutions for them. We take outside input, we're receptive to new ideas, we listen to others, and we acquire those new skills. So eventually that gets us into our growth zone. And that growth zone is how we grow as individuals, how we become more resilient. We have a greater vision of what we want to do and what we want to accomplish in life. We reach those goals and milestones that we set for ourselves, and then we are able to define or set new goals even beyond that. So really getting out of that fear zone, those gray zones where we're comfortable and we feel safe, but if there's anything outside of that, we just fear it and we're not able to push ourselves. That's our goal, is to develop that resiliency, to push ourselves past that comfort zone and past that fear zone. And so the idea here is I want to go over what I mean by SMART goals, and really and setting those goals, and building that resiliency. And a lot of this material you'll see on your screen was developed by Dr. David Cheshire, who is our director for Center for Healthy Minds and Practice here in Jacksonville. So if you are a Jacksonville employee and you want one-on-one counseling, we have 3 licensed therapists here on site that are available to you for free. It's all confidential. They can meet with you on Zoom or in person. Nothing goes back to your managers. It doesn't cost you anything. It's all free for you to use, and valuable resources. And he provided a lot of this content you'll see in these upcoming slides. So setting SMART goals, well, if your goals aren't reachable, are they really worth making? Right? You have to set realistic goals and they have to follow those SMART goals guidelines. So when I asked about internal stressors in your life and talked about those, remember, those are the things within our power. Those are things where we set lofty expectations that we know we'll never be able to fulfill, or other people don't fulfill. And when that happens, we get stressed out, or the need to always be perfect, even though no one's perfect, right? Those are internal stressors. So when we're thinking about setting our SMART goals, remember, we want to make them reachable, or they're not going to be worth making. So the S in SMART goals, we're going to be talking about being specific. So what goals do you want to accomplish? So there's 2 on this screen right here. A non-specific goal would be saying something like, I want to lose weight. That's not very specific. Losing 0.00001 pounds, technically you're still losing weight. Instead, set a specific goal for yourself. Things like, I want to lose 10 pounds by December 1st. That's very specific, and it gives you a timeline to be able to measure that goal, which leads into the M in SMART goals, which is measurable. So all goals, you should have a way to evaluate whether or not you accomplish them. So again, on the screen, an example of a non-measurable goal really is, it's somewhat measurable, but it's kind of vague, is I want to run the Gate River Run faster. Well, that's pretty vague. It doesn't, in your training, it doesn't really give you anything to really aim for. Instead, use something measurable, like I want to improve my mile time by 30 seconds. That's measurable. It's specific. As you're going through your training, you know what goal you have to hit each mile. So that's something that is measurable, and you can measure throughout your process. Now, the A in SMART goals, that's attainable. So these goals should be something that you're capable of reaching. Now, for us Jags fans, I'm sorry to do this to you, but what's a better goal for the Jaguars? Is it to win the Super Bowl next season? Or if you've watched in the past 3 or 4 years, it's probably just to win 5 games. That would be a good season for them. Now, that's not to say that they won't say that their goal is to win the Super Bowl. That's not to say that's not the case, but a more realistic and attainable goal for them is to win those 5 games. Also, make your goals relevant. That's the R in SMART goals. So what is important to you in your lifestyle? What provides the most relevancy? So on the screen, which goal is better for a nurse? My goal is to climb Mount Everest, or my goal is to treat all of my patients as if they were a member of my own family. Now, that doesn't mean that nurses can't have a goal to climb Mount Everest. If more power to you, if that is your goal. But the idea here is find something that is relevant to you in your life. Make something that will make a positive impact and a tremendous impact in your life. So find a key area of your life, at least, that you would like to make a goal to have some type of change, and make it relevant to your lifestyle as well. And lastly, the T in SMART goals, something that's time bound. So make sure that you have a deadline, something that your goal is not unending. So example here on the screen is, my goal is to publish a research article. Well, there's no time on that, right? It's just to publish it. Or a better example is, my goal is to submit an article for publication by November of 2022. Another example here is, I tell myself, I want to learn multiple languages. I've told myself that for, ever since I graduated college. And while I learned one in college, as you don't use it throughout the day, you lose it. So Giving myself an unending goal just gives me room to make excuses for myself. Oh, I'll do that later. I'll push it off or procrastinate. So you want to make sure that your goals are time bound. That keeps you in check. And you, as you're looking at your goal, you know what time frame that you have to complete it in. And the idea is when we set these goals, the most important thing to take home is to monitor your self-talk and relax. Listen to the way that you talk to yourself. We all talk to ourselves, whether we want to admit it or not. Either it's out loud or in our heads, but we do talk to ourselves. We have these thoughts in our head. So we monitor that self-talk that we are giving ourselves, and learn to relax and be easier on ourselves. And what I mean by that is start using assertive doing words. So instead of in your mind, you're saying, I hope to, or I'll try, or I wish I could, or I might. Start saying, I'm going to, I will, I want to, I can. Change the way you talk to yourself, because it does change the way your brain takes home these messages. So for instance, when we say, I don't want to get fat, I hope I don't mess this up, I must not fail this test, right? These are all negative connotative words that you're telling yourself, right? There's no positive connotation to these. What our brain takes, what it hears as a take home message is fat, mess this up, fail, right? So just that structure of that sentence that we are telling ourselves, our brain is taking home negative connotations. And that's how we get mired in that rumination, when we're just stuck in those negative thoughts turning over and over in our head. So instead of saying that, what we should say is, I'm going to get slim and healthy. I want to do a good job. I'm going to pass this test. So when we talk like this in a more positive connotation, our brain hears, and the take home message is slim and healthy, good job, pass this test, right? We're talking more positively to ourselves. So our brain is grabbing those positive connotations that we're giving it, and it spreads out into us. We create more self-confidence that way. We're not as hard on ourselves, things like that that can hinder our goals or cause us internal stress. Now, Albert Ellis was an American psychologist, and he believed that a lot of the large number of our psychological problems are due to patterns of irrational thoughts. All right, so he focuses his theory on the idea that people are not changed by facts, but actually by what they believe about the facts. So therefore, if we are capable of changing our patterns of thinking, we'll be capable of creating emotional states that are less painful, more positive, and more consistent with reality. So his thought here is that the way we think about things is not necessarily the thing that happens. It's how we think about it that really causes us problems. So some of those irrational beliefs that he talks about is everyone must love me, right? You have this idea that everyone must love you 100%. If they don't, something's wrong and you're going to stress about it. Or if I'm not perfect, I'm worthless. Setting yourself up to be this pedestal where you can't make mistakes, you can't have any failures, you can't have any times where you just mess up. And that's not rational. That's not going to be something that is going to be able to be done. So no one's perfect. You can't set yourself up on that pedestal, because it's going to cause that internal stress. You always want to be better, but obviously, perfection, you can't set that thing. So every time you make a mistake, you get down on yourself. Or how about living in those negative things? It's awful when things go wrong, right? We love to stew in those negative things, think it's unending and things will never end. But when we're in positive situations, we're always anxious about what's coming next. What's the bad thing that's going to happen after this? And you'll go down the list, but another one I want to mention here is that I have no control over my emotions, but we do. We control how we react. We can't control how other people speak to us. We can't control what people do to us or anything like that. But definitely think about those things that we have control over our emotions. We have control over how we respond to different situations. So it's a good quote here that kind of wraps up all these things that we do. Watch your thoughts; they become your words. Watch your words; they become your actions. Watch your actions; they become your habits. Watch your habits; they become your character. And watch your character; it becomes your destiny. So if you have these negative thoughts, eventually the way you communicate is going to be in a pessimistic and negative way. right? And if you communicate that in a negative way, your actions are gonna reciprocate those words. And in your words, eventually you're gonna get in the habit of doing these things. And then eventually that's gonna become your character, and you're setting yourself up on that path of negativity. So remember it all starts with your thoughts, right? If we can start thinking of ourselves and thinking in ways that are more positive, but definitely think of it in a more positive way. We're able to turn our thoughts into words, our words into actions, our actions into habits, habits into character, and our character into destiny. So be good to yourself too, right? Be good to yourself too. Take time to relax and find something out of each day that you enjoy doing. I know it's hard to say, hey, I don't have any time in the day. I'm going from work. I go to work and then I come home and I got to cook. I got to get kids. I got to do all this. But you should be able to have some time of the day just dedicated to something that you enjoy, even if it's 10 minutes. If you can take 10 minutes out of your day to find something that you enjoy, take that time to relax and use it for you time, right? You're able to take care of other things better if you are able to take care of yourself too. Stay healthy, go for a walk, exercise, eat well, stay hydrated. All these things you heard about, how food and mental health correlate last class. So when we talk about mindfulness in this talking about mending minds and understanding relationships, it's a whole health, whole body approach, right? It's not just the mental health aspect. It's exercising, sleeping well, eating well, all of those things that we want to incorporate. Connect to others, find that social support, connect with some friends that you've lost touch with, right? Or coworkers or family members. Reach out to those people that you are grateful for in your life that you may have not expressed that gratitude for, and tell them, right? Connect with others, build those interpersonal relationships. And lastly, enjoy life. Take pleasure in being part of your own solution, right? This is a solution. You have all these problems, all these stressors that are constant in life, but you have the control, you have the power to what you do with those. So take pleasure, enjoy being part of that solution that is in your life. So what I want you to do is create your own SMART goal, and you'll do this on your own. You don't have to do it right now, but remember the parameters. So choose something that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound. And if you need help setting SMART goals, or you want any, just one-on-one coaching, or if you just want someone to talk to as you're going through these goals and to check in with you as you're doing it, there's our contact email, wellness@jax.ufl.edu, or our number on the screen there. My personal email is down there at the bottom if you prefer to speak to me. But you can also reach me at wellness@jax.ufl.edu. And if you prefer to talk to Karan or John or any of the people that you heard through this program, you can more than welcome to request us that way as well. And lastly, I want to leave you with some mindful bites, just something to take home as a take home message, that you can cultivate me time by establishing mindfulness in your body through a steady awareness of your breath and posture. So we always are running throughout our days, don't have enough time. We're always, thinking there's just not enough time in the day to get things done. But even taking a minute out of your day, just checking in on your posture and your body, taking a few deep breaths, that's you time. That gives you that superpower of making all time your time, just by checking in with your body, seeing how it feels, making sure you're sitting up straight, taking a few deep breaths to really calm your body instead of taking those shallow chest breaths, right? So remember, keep up with your gratitude journal, or your gratitude jar, or if you're writing letters of gratitude, develop those SMART goals for yourself, right? Pick one of the things that we went over in this class at least, and develop that SMART goal. We would love checking in with you. If you guys would want to reach out to us, we'd be more than happy talking through some of those SMART goals and helping you with it. Remember to be mindful and present throughout each day. Engage in those conversations. Really listen to other people. Trick they always teach me is something, if you're communicating, if you're having a conversation with someone, at the end of the conversation, you should be able to summarize or repeat what they just said back to you, right? And if you're not, then you're not engaged in that conversation. You're listening to reply. So think about that as you're engaging in those conversations. Remember to listen to the other person and to share that empathy. There'll be a post-class assessment on the next couple of coming slides. You'll be asked to complete that. Remember, that is your attendance for each class. So you should have completed one for each class. So there will also be a link sent out at the email at the end of this course. There will also be a post-program survey that we'll send out in the email. And this is completely anonymous. So we would ask that you just fill it out as honestly as possible if there's things that you like, didn't like, and just to really check in with you and see how you like the program, things like that. Please share your comments. We love to hear from you. And remember to utilize all the resources available to you, whether it's your wellness office, whether it's the CHAMP Center, whether it's your EAP services. Utilize those resources that are available to you. They are there for you. Remember to engage in those social components as well. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, whoever it may be, really express that gratitude. I think we definitely need a lot more of it. And then as a reminder, program requirements, this is mainly for our JAX folks. So if you want your wellness credit, remember that you are required to complete that pre and post survey. Each post-class assessment, so there's 6 of them, so you should have completed 6. Obviously, if you miss any of them, we can send them out to you as well. But if you complete all 6 and you attended each of the class, you can keep and update your daily gratitude journal. You don't have to turn it in, but you will get your 100 points towards your wellness credit for that for our JAX folks. All right. And lastly, here is your class assessment. We will also send it out as a link in the email following this class. So if you don't want to answer it now, by all means, you can wait until that email goes out. That will also include a copy of this presentation and again, a link to that anonymous survey, just evaluating the course. So Karan and I will hang out for a little bit. If you have any questions for us, please send them in chat or you can unmute yourself. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining our program. I hope you got some good information out of it, and we definitely look forward to seeing you all again in the future.